Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes to let more attendees join. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar this afternoon. I'm going to hand over now to our presenter, Daniel, he'll take you through MediusFlow.
Thank you, Jessica. So let's get the show on the road. First of all, my name is Daniel Sereste. I'm Vice President of Products with MediusFlow, and I will be doing the absolute majority of talking today. But before we get into the goodies, I will let John from Columbus have a few words before we get started. So John, go ahead.
Thank you, Daniel. Hello there. Very good introduction from me. Just my name is John Lincoln, and I'm responsible for the finance pre-sales within Columbus, UK. Thank you for joining this webinar. We will show you how to take the next step in your digital transformation journey. Just want to make a couple of key points before Daniel starts a demo. Firstly, Medius is a provider best-in-class accounts payable automation. And secondly, there are pre-packaged integrations for both D365 FO and Business Central, and this goes back to version AX 2009 and NAV 2009. That's it. Thank you very much. Back to Daniel.
All right, thanks, John. So let's get this show on the road. So I won't bore you with a lot of information about MediusFlow as a company, but I do want to boast a little bit with our numbers, because this is an opportunity to do so. So we're a cloud solution, and we have 200,000 active users. So I mean, people actually using the system, and we're 250 employees. We have our own offices in 8 countries, but we do work through our partner channel. So Columbus being one of our most important partners as such. And if you look at the amount of money that flows through our cloud solution every year, we're at a run rate of $70 billion right now, or actually that's the 2018 number. So I expect that 2019 will actually be quite a lot bigger than that. So there's a bunch of money flowing through our solution. Just to give you an idea of the momentum that we're in, we had in October, we had a go live every working day of October, we had a go live, and we have 267 new logos joining our solution this year to date. And because we're a cloud solution, we release new innovation almost continuously. So there is never an upgrade project or anything like that. It's a continuous customer experience, but we do introduce new features and innovation regularly. So far we've had 10 releases this year, and we're at a monthly schedule when it comes to releasing updates and improvements to the product. So the reason why working with Columbus is so great for us is because we share the same target segments. Basically, we are quite strong in retail, manufacturing, and distribution, and the reason for that is, of course, that there is those are the industries where typically you have a fairly high level of complexity in your supply chain, and you have a nice mix of direct materials and indirect materials processes to take care of, and you also have quite complex invoices. You could have complex invoice scenarios such as multi-PO to multi-invoice and partial receipts and all of that. And because we're strong there, we have grown quite large in those segments. We are not only a Microsoft Gold partner, but we're actually Microsoft preferred solution for AP automation, and we're recognized by industry analysts as an innovative best of breed solution who's bringing the domain forward. And of course, we work with the main distributors and implementers in the Dynamics space. So what are we trying to solve? Let's spend just a minute or two on that. So when we talk about the problems that we see our customers having before implementing MediusFlow, we can divide them into three segments, being cash, cost, and compliance. And not going through everything in detail, but poor visibility is one thing that we see a lot, and visibility into the money on the invoices. Because if you have a solution or no solution, maybe you have papers, you have email messages with attached PDFs, you have some SharePoint solution or some simple solution, you have very poor visibility and reporting capabilities. So you can't really tell where the money is. So you're doing your cash forecasting by guessing pretty much. Also, a lot of CFOs want to extend their days payable outstanding to increase their cash, but that's not really that easy to do, because if you extend your DPO, then you are hitting your supplier's cash. So that dialogue is not always friction free. Also, if you happen to have more cash than you need right now and you want to leverage that by capturing early pay discounts, you're unable to do so simply because your process is too slow. So even if you go through the trouble of negotiating these payment terms with your suppliers, you can't capture those early pay discounts because your AP process is too slow. Within the cost track, there's the obvious problem of lost invoices. It's quite embarrassing if you're the one responsible for the invoice process to have people around the business come to you and say, hey, what's wrong with your process? Why my supplier says that they send an invoice and then I've never seen it. Where is it? And late payment fees is obviously an unnecessary cost. Audits, we have some amazing stories of customers before they implemented MediusFlow. They needed to go into their vertical storage and get a forklift to retrieve paper from their storage whenever they had an audit. Whereas with MediusFlow, you just run a couple of prepackaged reports and there's no follow-up question from the auditors. The big difference there. High processing cost in the manual process, and perhaps more a process that doesn't scale. So a lot of our customers have been in a situation before getting MediusFlow where they realize that if we increase our invoice volume as projected, we will not be able to handle that. So that's not a nice situation to be in. In the compliance track, of course, there's a ton of things in the compliance area, but I would say poor control of delegation of authority is one thing. A lot of kind of first generation solutions out there claim to be automated, but in fact, they're just cementing manual processes onto a digital platform, and they still have people routing invoices for approval. So the business logic is still in the heads and minds of a few people in your AP department. It's not really governed by business rules. So we do that with a kind of rule-based engine that routes invoices for approval. Fraud detection and enforcement of forest principle is, of course, not ideal if you have manual routing of invoices. And then a biggie, timely and accurate financial reporting. Every accounting and finance department knows this, that they have to produce accurate and timely numbers every month. And that it's a pain. We have had customers who say that prior to using MediusFlow, they could barely close a month before they had to start closing the next month, and that left them a few days only to process all the invoices of that month. And that is, of course, spiraling out of control and not ideal. And after having implemented MediusFlow, they say we can close in a day and we still have time for coffee breaks. So these are very common pains, and that we work to address. So what's the flip side of that? What should it be like? Well, we like to say that what we do is we bring control of cash, cost, and compliance. So those three dimensions, and it's all about control, but of course about efficiency as well. It kind of comes as a nice side effect when automating the process. So what does that mean? Well, when you control AP, you can deliver timely and accurate financial reporting every month, and you can produce all the data needed for audits with just a few clicks. You can serve all your budget owners, all your buyers out there, everyone who's interacting with your invoice process with a solution that they can use on their own terms, on their own device, whenever they would like. You can now leverage your over liquidity to capture discounts or extend the DPO without causing friction in your supply chain. And you can deliver more accurate tax reporting to authorities and make sure that you're not overpaying tax. And also you can provide high quality AP data to procurement for spend analysis. So all of these things are kind of reaching outside of AP. So it's not just about efficiency in AP. You're also serving your accounting team, your controllers who would be dealing with your auditors. You're serving all your budget owners in the organization and your buyers. You're serving your treasury or finance department, depending on how you're organized around that. You serve your tax person or department, depending how built out that function is, and also your procurement department or your future procurement department. If you don't have a formalized procurement department for indirect materials yet, you will have the data that you need to do proper spend analytics. So there are a lot of benefits that reach outside of AP and even outside the company. So when you're in control of AP, you are in better control of your supplier relationships. We have this wonderful story with Mark Jacobs, who is one of our customers. They simply couldn't keep the most important talent they had, who were contractors, because they couldn't pay them on time. But after having implemented MediusFlow, that was not a problem anymore. So they went from 45 days to being able to pay an average in 11 days, which is, according to our benchmarks, not great, but to them, that was good enough. So an example of how that can feel. This is one of our customers, Silver Eagle Beer Distributors. They say everyone is thrilled, not only the AP team, but also the business, being all the approvers out there, and our suppliers. So that external point of view as well. The outcome is absolutely remarkable. And this comes as a side effect of having automated the process, because you gain that visibility and control of the process, and also, of course, efficiency. So the question is, you've invested in one of the best ERP systems in the world. How come you're still in pain? Well, the truth is your ERP system was not designed to handle the AP process, right? It handles accounting really well, but it doesn't handle the AP process. So that's why your needs are much bigger than what you can do in your ERP system. And because of that, you create ad hoc processes around your ERP. So those could be, a SharePoint hack, email-based, actual papers lying around on desks. And of course, there's no visibility into that. There's no control of that process. And that's causing all of this stress and friction. So what we do is basically we plug in to your ERP and extend the capabilities of that so that you have a full AP automation support, and thereby removing paper before it even enters your process, to get rid of those issues related with paper or routing emails around. And doing so, you gain full visibility, really, end to end. Not only end to end in the process from the point where you receive an invoice until it's paid, but also across your whole organization. So it doesn't matter if you run AX in one business unit, NAV in another business unit, SAP in a third one, and Infor M3 in a fourth one. You'll have one place where you can report on all your POs, all your invoices across all of those business units and ERPs. and also bringing cloud and mobility to your end users. So typically your approvers may not enjoy going onto a VPN only to get access to an ERP system. Less of an issue if you have a cloud-based ERP system, but certainly with on-premise ERPs, just to be able to approve invoices, right? But it's more than just paperless. I just want to mention that there's so much talk about AP automation in the industry, and I just want to explain quickly how we differentiate. So we concluded that ERP plus a stack of paper is not where you want to be. But there's also a lot of different technologies that digitize information, and that is very good indeed, but it's not enough. So if you talk about OCR engines, RPA, which is basically copy paste macros, EDI, which is just standards for transferring information electronically, e-invoicing, again, the actual transportation of a document in a structured electronic form, portals, and first generation solutions that would be workflow platforms and simple invoice automation solutions. They focus very much on digitizing the information, but they misuse the word automation because they basically say that if you work on a computer, it's automated. Whereas we say, no, it's not automated just because you're working on a computer or a mobile device. Automation means automation, as in things not having to be done. So what we have is a system that is business rules based, and it's purpose built to automate the AP invoice process. So it's not, starting from scratch with a workflow engine, trying to draw up some diagrams, starting to coding. No, it's a train, you get on, you ride it. And also, because we have hundreds and hundreds of customers using exactly the same process, we can benchmark that process and allow our customers to measure their own process performance against other customers. And that's pretty cool. And the secret to that is, of course, that it's a multi-tenant cloud system. So everyone's using the same system. So, a private cloud or a hybrid or a hosted type of model, and certainly not on-premise, will not be able to aggregate that data in that way. So it's quite unique, and it's really, really driving efficiency in our customer community. So we calculate these benchmarks, and customers have access to more detailed benchmarks. And we see that on average, PO invoices are touchless. 68% of invoices are touchless, which is really, really good compared to what the analysts say about the market average is 55%. And our customers can break this number down to see exactly where in the process they outperform the benchmarks or where they're subpar, and where they need to with pinpoint accuracy, they can see where they need to improve. So an example of success there is Hey Needle, online retailers. They save 80 hours per week. So that's just internally in the AP department, thanks to the high levels of automation that they achieve. All right, so let's get into the goodies. So I'm going to try to take you through what I call a canned demo, going through a couple of different scenarios. We're going to look at non-PO invoices. We're going to look at PO invoices, how they move from your suppliers, either in the form of paper, through some scanning, or through some electronic format, and flowing through this big white box MediusFlow and somehow end up in your ERP. Now, my samples and my screenshots are all D365 FO, but yes, we do AX, we do NAV, we do Business Central, we do a lot of other ERP systems as well, but we do all of those. But I had to select one, so I picked D365 FO for screenshots. Right, so the first thing I want to show you is a non-PO or a general expense invoice where there is no matching going on. So in my example, we'll receive this invoice as a piece of paper. It'll go into the scanner, the scanner will upload it automatically to our cloud solution. So it will go first into the capture step of the process, where MediusFlow will extract all the relevant invoice information from that scanned image. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So when you do non-PO invoices, typically you would not capture line level, you would just capture some head level information, just a few fields like the invoice number, invoice date, currency, and the total amount. But this is configurable on the supplier level. So if you click that little cogwheel there, you can just say, hey, by the way, I also want to capture some remittance information or the payment terms to make sure they are correct. So you can do that in very easily here on the supplier level. You don't have to go into configuration screen or anything like that. So having captured the invoice automation, and ideally this happens fully automatically, right? Having done that, the next challenge for the system is to apply the correct cost distribution and to route it to the correct approvers. So as we see in our benchmark numbers, our best-in-class customers, they're able to apply the correct cost distribution and route it to the correct approvers without AP touching it in 99% of cases. And of course, that's mind-blowing, but the average numbers are still quite high. So we have some nifty techniques for doing that automatically. But I also wanted to show what does it look like when it doesn't happen automatically, when AP has to be involved and actually apply the cost distribution. So I'm going to zoom in here and show you what that looks like. So in my example, I have what we call an expense invoice or a non-PO invoice. It needs a cost distribution because none was applied automatically. So we're going to look at what that looks like. So we have no cost distribution applied yet, but the system tells you that, hey, I have an automatic coding suggestion. So this is actually machine learning with 95% accuracy. It tells you that I have a suggestion. So it's basically saying that I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to do. So try me. And if you click that button, fill in, it applies that cost distribution. And if it's not correct, you can always undo and then apply, something from the latest coding that you did from this supplier. You'll have access to the 5 latest codings here. You can copy paste coding from Excel straight into one of these fields, and it'll just copy paste it in there. You can have, configure a new supplier template right here so that the next time this invoice comes in, you won't have to see it at all. There is a lot of different ways that you can drive this continuous improvement in terms of automation. But this is one nifty little feature that kind of helps AP whenever they have to do the cost distribution manually. So having applied the correct distribution, the system is usually able to route it to the correct approver automatically. And the experience of your end user is pretty nice. I'll show you what it looks like. So in this case, the invoice we saw in the capture section of the process is the same one that's here. It's from Words Catering. It's a catering invoice that was ordered by this guy Howard, who now he received an email notification that he needs to approve an invoice. Click that email link and he got straight to this screen. So he sees the invoice he needs to approve. He can also see that that there is he can verify the amount, zoom in on the image if he wants to. Yeah, he remembers $250. That was something like that. He can also see a few other interesting things, that there's a template that has been applied. So it was actually coded automatically and routed to him for approval without the involvement of AP. And he can approve it here. And then he's just going to add a comment and say that, okay, this is this is that Brooklyn event, because he knows that this is going to also be escalated to his manager, Penny. So he does that and adds that comment and sends it off. Now, Penny, she's on the move, so she gets an email notification and she clicks that link on her mobile device, and that takes her to the mobile approval experience. So it's a little bit different because it's optimized for mobile devices. So Penny can see that Howard has already approved something here, but his approval limit was exceeded, and that's why Penny needs to look at this as well. So in this, if she expands this area down here, she can see the cost distribution that was applied by that template. And she could go in and look at that comment that Howard put in. It's the Brooklyn event. Okay, now she knows. She can also review the actual image on a mobile device and use pinch to zoom to see the invoice image clearly. She can see that Howard ordered some deluxe sandwiches, and she'll go back to the authorized screen and just approve it. So pretty efficient two-step approval. Doesn't matter if your approvers are on the go, they now have no excuses not to approve their invoices. So in the end, of course, this has to go into Dynamics. And through our integration, it's a completely packaged integration that's very quick to deploy. It's very thin inside of D365 FO and AX, so it's not going to affect your performance or Azure consumption or anything like that. But it integrates very well, and it creates the journal completely automatically. It creates a link back to MediusFlow inside your ERP system, so that it's easy for you to go back and find the audit trail in MediusFlow if you want to do that from the ERP. Also, we bring over the voucher number from Dynamics 365 fully automatically back into MediusFlow, so that whenever you're working in MediusFlow, you can search for an AX or D365 FO or Business Central and maybe voucher number in our little quick search, and you'll find the invoice just like that. So we really take it all the way from the point where you receive the invoice until it's inside your ERP. And payment information, actual payment information and such, is also fed back to MediusFlow for full audit trail. So we're going to look quickly at the PO scenario as well. Now, the big difference is, of course, that when we do PO matching, we want to capture lines, and we have a beautiful solution for that. It outperforms most solutions in the market. I haven't seen any that has a better first time capture, because we leverage cross buyer or cross customer machine learning, so that when all the user feedback we get from our customer base will benefit a new customer as well. So in this scenario, I have created an order in D365. There are 6 order lines, and I'm ordering some stuff from 3M. But in my scenario, I'm going to have a price variance on line number 5. So all the information is captured in the capture step, and then MediusFlow automatically starts looking for things to match against. So looking at all the receipts that happen in your ERP, looking at all the order lines, checking unit prices, receipt quantities and everything. And in this case, it discovers that there is a unit price variance, and the unit price variance is outside of predefined tolerance levels on this supplier. So it's going to route that to the buyer on the order, or even on the order line. There could be different buyers and different order lines. So still, this is touchless from an AP point of view. So the system identifies what the problem is, and it routes it to the correct buyer. And that experience is something like the buyer gets an email, click the email link, gets presented with exactly what the problem is. So here's the invoice, and it says you need to look at order line number 5, which also in my example happens to be invoice line number 5. And it presents the problem, saying that here's the issue. We have a unit price variance. It's 30.77 on the order, is 32.77 on the invoice. So what do you want to do about it? So in this case, the buyer actually decides to approve it because he discovers that we actually have the incorrect price in D365 FO. So that's a quick job for the buyer to do. AP is not involved. And the beautiful thing is that MediusFlow really hides all the complexity, because even with a simple example like this is how much complexity there really is with 6 invoice lines, PO lines, goods receipt lines, and of course you can imagine with 50 lines, partial receipts, multi PO to multi invoice, it gets very complex. But MediusFlow kind of boils it down to what's the problem, what is it that the buyer has to look at, making sure that the right person has the right information at the right time, and then of course posting that into D365 FO again. Yes, we create the journal. Yes, we create that link back. Yes, we get the voucher number, but also because this is a PO invoice, we have to update the order. So the received quantities or the invoice remainder will be transformed into an invoiced quantity. And of course, this could be done with partial invoicing and so on. And again, the approved price variance needs to be reflected in D365 FO for correct inventory value updates and stuff like that. So it's really a quite deep integration, but technically it's a very thin component. So in the end, you have a very highly automated process for all your invoices across all your business units for both indirect and direct materials. You have a complete audit trail. And the beauty of all of this is that when it's all automated, you get visibility into the data. So going back to the concept of putting you in control of cash costs and compliance, I want to show you a couple of dashboards that we have in the system. So we did talk about benchmarking, we did talk about process efficiency, but we also track the money on the actual invoice. So when you have your API invoice process fully automated, you can actually see the sum of all received but not paid invoices. So these are invoices in your workflow right now. You can also see how that has been trending over the past 12 months, month by month. What you also see is, when do I have to pay this amount? So the first bar in this chart shows what's payable this month and next month and next month. And you can even see out of the amount that's payable this month, the blue section here is still in my workflow. So I won't be able to pay that even if I wanted to. And then you can click that to drill down and see exactly what are those invoices from what suppliers in what company, what approver is sitting on them. So you can really pinpoint the reason for you not being able to pay on time. You can also see how this trend line here, understand why it's going up and down, because we put it next to the total spend in each month. So you will be able to explain any movement in that trend line. Also, we track DPO. Finance departments typically like this. We track DPO month by month with a year-on-year overlay. So if your CFO is running a DPO extension program, she could show that any changes in DPO is actually because of that program and not because of a seasonal variance, because we have the year-on-year overlay. We also track aging buckets. So the amount that we haven't paid on time, the overdue amount, how much is 0 to 5 days overdue, how much is 6 to 10 days overdue, 11 to 15, and so on. And again, each bar split up into how much is still in workflow. So this amount here is 0 to 5 days overdue, and I couldn't pay it even if I wanted to, the blue section here, because that's still in workflow. And again, you can drill down into it, see exactly who's not doing their job. Also, if you want to leverage your working capital to capture early pay discounts, which is a very good idea in a low growth economy where interest rates are generally low and you can earn 43% risk-free returns on your capital if you do this, we have a dashboard to allow you to maximize that. So again, you can see the total available discount right now. So of all the invoices that are currently in your process, this is the discount you can capture if you process the correct invoices right now. Again, you can drill down here and see exactly what those invoices are, but AP also has tools in their inbox to see exactly which invoices they should prioritize to capture those discounts. You can see the potential discount capture in each month compared to your actual discount capture in each month. So this is the sum of the discounts offered by your suppliers in each month, and this is how much you actually captured. So you can see that the gap between those lines is actually a lost potential. And if you want to close that gap, we have a list for you where you can see your suppliers prioritized by lost opportunity. So if you want to start closing that gap, you know exactly what suppliers you should be focusing on. And for reference, your average processing time. So if you're leveraging something like 2%, 10, and 30 as payment term for capturing early pay discounts, and your average payment time is 10 days, then it's evident that you have to prioritize these suppliers to capture your discounts. So to summarize it, it's a best-of-breed cloud solution for AP automation. It's Microsoft's preferred solution for AP automation. We are analysts recognized for being innovative. We bring a lot of efficiency, but also for the new business insights that we bring. I would say that that's perhaps one of the more interesting parts of the whole project. So it goes way beyond just efficiency. It really gives you a new level of control, not only of your process, but also the money in that process. And we really create customer success. We have not only the benchmarking framework, which is quite unique, but we also have a dedicated customer success organization that reaches out proactively and helps our customers to do that. So our partners do the same thing and really work with our customers to drive them forward, to bring those insights, to drive that efficiency. We also have events, yearly events that you can attend, and we work quite collaboratively when it comes to roadmap voting and discussing new ideas. Also, the package integration and the fact that it's a ready-to-run best practice cloud solution delivers incredibly fast time to value. We have some amazing stories. Of course, it's not the average implementation time, but we have done projects, from project start to go live in 11 days. That's a little bit extreme, but it says something about how quickly you actually can go live if you have your resources aligned for it, and you just want to get this done as quickly as possible. It can be done quickly. So in the end, IT is going to be very happy. Finance is going to be very happy. AP is definitely going to be very happy. And overall, everyone's happy with doing this fast. All right. Thank you, John.
Hello, thank you very much for that, Daniel. Very good. So the next steps, a short survey will be sent out or be issued after this webinar. If you could complete that, that would be great. If you'd like to know more, about how we can help with your journey into digital transformation, please contact me at Columbus, and that's my email address there. And the recording will be made available later on in the week, and we'll send you details of that. So once again, thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.